Hello, my beautiful beings. How y'all doing today? Well, I hope. So, I just want to give y'all something that's been coming up in the energy lately. Yeah, for it. So I don't know if this is like being projected. I don't know if I'm just needing to be made aware for myself, as far as like not making sure I tell my story a certain way and focusing on my aspect of it, right? Um, so, okay. And I'm only mentioning it today because it happened again today. And I'm like, why are y'all trying to make me out to be a liar, gang? Like, what's going on? Like, why y'all trying to make me out to be a liar? So, maybe a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I went to get my mom some gizzards, right? Now, these gizzards was hard as ever, okay? These gizzards was hard as ever. So much so, like, you could not enjoy them. I called the restaurant. I told them, like, I can't even enjoy these gizzards. I need a new set, right? So I go back up there and I asked for some sauce to go with the gizzards. He was like, oh, I gotta charge you for the sauce. I'm like, gang, you just inconvenienced me giving me these hard ass gizzards that I couldn't even chew through. They was dark as ever, and you telling me I can't get no sauce? Now, was enough sauce on the stuff when I actually opened it, but it was more so just about the principle and the lie that followed when he was like, now mind you, I had just bought some gizzards a week before then, 5, right? Well, I ain't gonna say 5 because I had one, but they definitely wasn't the same quality. And so it was more so what it seems to me. Okay, let me stay focused. So he tells me, he like, oh, this is the standard of how we make our gizzards. The only time we make them soft is when they're requested to be made soft. And I'm thinking in my head, like, now mind you, I'm not going back and forth with this man, because I'm like, gang, I literally was just up here a week ago. I didn't request for nothing to be made soft, and they were made just fine. So you literally just tried to give me some old ass gizzards and didn't think that I was gonna come back and ask for something different. So he like, yeah, these are the standards. People have to request for them to be made soft, And I'm like, first of all, why is the standard for some hard ass gizzards? If anything, people will more than likely request for gizzards to be hard, because gizzards are already tough as is. Why is the standard already hard? Excuse me? I'm like, if anything, the standard would to be softer than harder, right? Nobody wants, come on now, right? So I'm like, you trying to make an ass out of you and me, okay? Assuming that this is my first time coming here, when I come here on a regular basis. But I didn't indulge in all of that. I didn't give him all of that. I just, okay, fine, whatever. Walked out, okay? So today I go into a dollar store near my house, and over the last 2 or 3 years, I have regularly taken my dog in this dollar store, right? Me and her do this during the summer. And so I walk in today, the lady was like, oh, there's no dogs allowed in this store. And I'm like, since when? She was like, oh, since forever. Like, we've never allowed dogs in this store. So I'm thinking in my head, I'm like, first of all, I've never seen you here. So, excuse me, I come here all the time. I've never seen you here. So, how is this all the, excuse me? So she was like, do you need to see a manager? I'm like, yeah, let me see a manager. So the manager comes out, and he was like, oh, is she a service dog? I'm like, no. He was like, well, we don't allow pets in the store. And I'm like, is it under new management? Because I'm like, is it under new management? Because this is new to me. And he was like, oh, I've been here for a year. We've never let dogs in here. And so I'm like, I've been coming here for like the last 2 or 3 years. Nobody has ever said anything to me about me bringing my dog in here. Like, clearly when I asked, is it new management? Like, y'all need not to say, oh, we've never allowed, because now y'all making me a liar. Y'all making my reality, my perception, my experience of things, like, completely false, because y'all making it seem like I'm just now stepping into this area, or just now stepping into places, and I'm making up rules as I go, which that's not been the case. Like, come on now. And so he was like, just clean. I'm allow you to bring her in this time, but further for future references, she can't come in here with the whoop and clean up if she makes a mess. And so basically what I was gonna say back then when I said stay focused is, first of all, collective, people may be trying to make you out to be a liar based off of maybe them just showing up in the area. And I'm not even gonna say that. Basically just making you out to be a liar, making your experience out to be a lie, your story out to be a lie, based off the narrative that they want to have when it comes to something that they're doing, right? So again, I don't know if this is something being projected into my energy, or this is something that I'm supposed to be made aware of, as a warning for myself when it comes to me expressing myself, when it comes to sharing my story, when it comes to giving my ideals about certain things. And so another thing that I wanted to say, I was talking about autonomy, right? And so Spirit got on me about autonomy not too long ago, and it was a whole reading where they basically was saying, like, it was a lot. But anyways, so when it comes to autonomy, I want y'all to know what that is, specifically the definition. It says autonomy is the capacity for self-governance, allowing individuals to make informed, uncoerced decisions aligned with their internal values and desires. Right? So basically what Spirit was telling me is that I have to have the capacity for people to make the decisions that they need to make without me thinking that it has anything to do with my experience of it or my perception of it. So maybe somebody making a choice for them, but me turning it into something that it's not because of how I felt about it, based off the values that I have, based off of what I would have done, right? And so I don't know if that's, again, coming up in my energy as a warning and to be mindful of not doing, or if that's something that's being projected, right? And so it's crazy because I had an experience, and I've been trying to be very, very mindful of not necessarily asking, like, why did it happen the way that it happened, but more so just being aware of, like, okay, how can I move past that? How can it happened, and so how can I allow things to play out the way that they're supposed to play out, right? Based off people aligning to their values and their belief systems without me turning them into a negative person, or without me turning them into a villain in my reality, right? I think that was another download that I had. Hold on, let me see, because I know I posted it somewhere. Okay, so that actually was like the same day. I said everybody projects. That's the universal law. Everything you experience is a projection of your thoughts. You just have to be mature enough to allow the Spirit to shift you when it comes to others and their realities, right? Others and their values, others and their beliefs, right? You have to be mature enough to know that, hey, just because somebody moved this way, that don't have to be a reflection of me and who I am. And it says what makes you mature isn't always agreeing with others, but allowing others to speak their truth. You have a choice of engaging in it or not. And so again, even when it comes to that narrative of maybe a person made a certain decision because they think you're a certain way, like, you can be mature enough to allow that person to feel how they feel, but you don't have to agree with it in regards to saying, oh, well, yeah, I am that way, so it makes sense on why you did that. Like, no, you don't have to take on that energy. You don't have to take on that role in their reality, right? And so it's just really having that maturity, again, of letting things play out the way that they need to play out, in regards to destiny, right? People have their choices. Like, things are fated to happen in life, but how you choose to operate in whatever comes up to be cleansed is ultimately the cycle that you put yourself in. Karma is all about action, right? And so one thing that I was saying about action was values, how you get into alignment is what you value, right? So your actions have to align with the values that you have. This was another picture that I came across that I thought was like so dope. It says alignment is when how you live supports what you say you want and is consistent with who you believe you are called to be, right? So another thing that was coming up with those situations was consistency, right? I've consistently been doing certain things, but the fact that people may not be aware of the consistency that I have, or people may not be paying that much attention to the alignment that I'm in, or the alignment of certain actions that I take, that they may not think that I'm being consistent in what it is that I do, or just being consistent overall. And so people can because they don't know what's going on in the background, because they're not privy to everything that it is that you do, because in their experience, in their world, they're not paying attention to you that much. The way that they may switch the narrative when it comes to your consistency may show up, or the way that you may switch the narrative to somebody and what they're consistently doing behind the back, behind, like in the shadows or behind closed doors. You may unintentionally project something on to a person that they've been doing, right? Or that they started doing, or that just aligns with their beliefs and their values, right? And so it's just being mindful of being who you say you are, right? Showing up the way that you say that you want to show up and who you are. So if my values, right, if my values align with what I've been posting, as far as like allowing people, having the capacity to allow people to make choices that they need, that align to their beliefs and values, then that will have to show up consistently in my life, right? That would have to be something that's not a one and done type thing, but I would consistently have to have that fruit mature in my life, of where I may meet individuals and I may rub people the wrong way and I may rub people the right way, but just having that capacity to say, okay, well, based off of the values that we have, they don't align. And so you can move how you move, just do it over there. You get what I'm saying? Like, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, I'm not saying that it's a good thing. What I'm saying is it just doesn't align with what I got going on and how I would prefer to operate and who I am as a person, right? So there literally could just be conflict in how individuals show up with one another. It does not mean that person has to become an enemy. It doesn't. Because first of all, I just want y'all to know that a lot of people are mirrors. A lot of people are mirrors of who you are, whether they are a mirror of karmic energy that you're in, or whether they're a mirror of divine energy that you could be in, right? All people, they're mirrors, right? And so it's more so about you learning how to learning from the reflection, right? What can you take out of this experience, out of this moment, to better yourself? Mostly to better yourself, right? To what do I need to let go? And sometimes you get into these things of like, and I was literally just watching somebody say this, Queen Cup, where she was basically saying, like, sometimes you will present yourself like your presence is the gift, she was saying, and then you'll be like, oh, well, why didn't I was showing up in love, I was showing up in this, and my intentions were good, but then a person may not be able to receive you showing up that way, and then you have something that shows up and you do the same thing because of a narrative, right? An illusion that you have casted over an individual because of your perception, because of maybe experiences that you've had. And it's like learning how to be reflective of, okay, that person was operating in karmic nature to where they missed an opportunity, right? So how can I better myself? What's coming to me is, people used to always say this to me, because I've always been an observer, but they say a smart person learns from their mistakes, but a wise person learns from other people's mistakes. And so it's about using your wisdom to know what is happening around you and why it's happening around you, so that when certain things happen, that you can take note of and you can be reflective of, like, okay, well, let me not do that. Let me get myself together in a better headspace. Let me be aware, because you know yourself, the energy that you came in, but you also, again, with people beliefs, what people may believe about you based off their perception or based off their experience, based off of what they think you're doing. You can know that that's not how I'm showing up, but I have to honor the choices that you're making. I have to honor and accept that, hey, this is what you're doing, even though I can fully see this may be a mistake, right? I'm not, and I'm not saying a mistake as in, because I honestly feel like things that are meant for you, they're meant for you, right? So I don't think it could be a mistake that you made a certain choice. Things cannot be denied but delayed, right? You can delay your own blessings. And so when I say a mistake, I'm not saying that you missed out on anything. I'm saying that you can delay something that was meant for you based off the timeline that you put yourself in, the reality that you put yourself in. When something is being presented to you, you have to be able to reflect on what it is that you do, so when the next time it comes around, that you don't miss it, right? That it's not a missed opportunity for you to opportunities. I made a video on TikTok where I said karmic partners or karmic individuals are opportunities for you to align your frequencies, to tune in into a higher vibration, right? And so again, this is just me going into talking about karmic cycles, how you can take certain things and shift. You literally, just the actions that you take, it shifts. And so another thing that's been big is action. When I tell y'all, like, I had been, oh my gosh, 2018, 2019, what was so crazy is I had this lady I was working with who did energy work, and she would tell me, Michaela, you're stuck because you don't know how to take action. You stuck because woody woody woo. You stuck because woody woody woo. And she was like, you have to get out of, and one of my things was fear of making mistakes. I was afraid of making mistakes. I went through a situation where I honestly felt like, listen, when I say I was first waking up to my gifts and all of those things, my intuition was telling me certain things, but have y'all ever heard of when if you read the Bible, if you know the good book, then you've heard of this, but y'all know when they said Spirit led Jesus into the wilderness, or Spirit led Jesus into a storm? When I tell y'all, I was led into a storm. I was led into the wilderness, okay? And so when I tell y'all, I was called to do certain things, but the way that it happened, the way that things transpired, it literally transformed me. Now, whilst I was going through it, I did not understand it. But now that I've gone through it, I completely understand why things had to happen the way that they happened, right? It was so that I could better myself. And so I literally went through a transformation. I went through an ego death because it caused me to shift how I thought and how I felt about certain things. And so really that's kind of like the gist of everything that I want to say. I could go on, but I'll probably start rambling, and I don't want to start rambling, y'all. I want to enjoy the sun while it's still out here. The little bit that I got, so that's all I have. I'm talking about alignment. I'm talking about values. My Venus is in Aries, and so what's most important for me is actually autonomy. Like, that's actually what's most important for me. That self-governance when it comes to my own personal values and my own personal beliefs. How I lead in life, how I lead in love, how I lead in the action that I take. It literally has nothing to do with anybody else or how anybody else may choose to live their life. It has everything to do with the authority that I have over mine. I don't have to fit into a narrative that other people put me in because they know bits and pieces of my life, or they know bits and pieces of my story. I know who I am as a whole individual, right? When it comes to the light, when it comes to the shadow, when it comes to the inner child, when it comes to that teenage girl, like, know thyself, and to thy own self be true. Okay? That's it. I love y'all. Till next time.